Dad here from MMA Fitness, and today I'm back with another client story for you. And today we have got Ben. So as has become a customary on this channel, Ben, please say hi.
Hello mate, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing okay, mate, doing okay. You know, struggling with the quarantine a little bit, but doing okay. How are you?
Aren't we all? Yeah, it's a bit weird, isn't it, mate? Getting adjusted to this new way of living, but hopefully from Monday we can sort of start getting back to normal.
That's the aim. That's the aim. So I've asked Ben to come on the channel because Ben's been one of my longest clients, and Ben's got a unique story because as a child he suffered with certain health issues, and overcoming them, he started in the gyms. You know, I remember when Ben's arm was the same size all the way up, and there, if you saw Ben, you'd realise he's very, very gene honed. So, sort of just starting off, Ben, what did you struggle with when you were a child?
Number of things really, mate. But the main thing was an irregular heartbeat. It was caused by like a faulty valve in the heart. So basically, whenever I used to do any sort of exercise, and that could be something as trivial as playing bulldog in the playground, my heart would just go like the clappers. And for ages, they had to rush me into hospital. And the only way to stop it was to dunk my head in ice cold water to shock me out of it. So after a while, they managed to diagnose it. I had to be on various treatments, the main one being beta blockers. So obviously, I carried a lot of weight as a child. So eventually, they managed to diagnose it and did a keyhole surgery from the groin up and corrected it. And thankfully, I've been okay ever since. And then, you know, a few little niggles here and there. I had appendicitis about 6 months after I had that keyhole surgery. Wow. So I was a bit unlucky as a kid, but fortunately I've had a pretty clean bill of health since, so not too bad.
But you said to me before you suffered with epilepsy.
Yeah, well that was probably a more recent development. So when I left uni about about 8 years ago, really. I left uni and I was in the process of finding full-time work, and eventually took a job with an electrical wholesaler, writing as a bid writer, working in their sales team. But they were based out in Sheldon. So I'd passed my driving test during uni, and but didn't get a car because I was only going to Birmingham City and Perry Bar, so it was like 20 minutes on the bus. So the purpose of me telling you that is the first 3 months while I was working my probation, I was getting the bus to Sheldon, which was like 2 hours there, 2 hours back, which was a bit of a trek. But I thought, you know, if I pass the probation, I'll just get a car, no danger. But whilst I was doing all that, I started to get these weird seizures in my sleep. And that I can't really describe them properly. Because you were sort of conscious they were happening, but you couldn't wake yourself up. Somebody had to literally come in the room and sort of shake me out of it. So after another long-winded process of various different tests, they diagnosed me with focal seizure. So that is a very mild form of epilepsy. So it took about 2 years to go a year seizure-free, which is what you need to do to be able to drive again. So that was a challenge, but luckily, like I said, it's very mild form, and I've spoke to other people that have got more severe cases of epilepsy, and it turns out I've been quite lucky, really. And it was all a really good life experience as well. You know, that discipline of getting up and getting on the buzz. You know, it was a bit soul destroying at times, especially around winter time when the buzzes didn't run properly. So you know, getting to and from Birmingham in the freezing cold when it's pitch dark was a bit sort of it's a bit of a test of my character, but you know, that job was worth doing it for, and I had a brilliant line manager who sort of made it worthwhile, really. So I always see it as a good character building exercise, if anything. But yeah, I've had a bit of a varied history with health. So,
and you talk about character building. When did you first start going to gyms or taking part in exercise?
So as you know, her being one of your clients, my mum is a bit of a fitness freak. She's run 2 London marathons, which is pretty incredible, really, considering she's well into her 50s. She'll probably kick me when she hears this video for saying well into her 50s. But you know, she's always been a big sort of inspiration to me, and she used to nag me to go to the gym because she used to go regularly, probably like 3-4 times a week, and I used to go, nah, I can't go to gyms, you know, I'm rake thin, I'm too skinny, it's going to be full of bodybuilders, you know, I'll feel like a prat. But eventually I did go. I went to Fitness First in Walsall Wood, and I gradually sort of got into it. Didn't really know what I was doing, to be honest. Used to Google little arms workouts, chest workouts, and all the equipment there was pretty good. So I suppose at one point I built myself up to a fairly decent size, or what seemed to me like a decent size at the time. But then sort of just slacked off a little bit, really, and lost quite a bit of weight. I was probably just under 10 stone at one point, which for a bloke of I'm about 5'10", so that's not ideal, really. But I carried on going. It never really fell out of my routine. I've always gone to gyms, but never really followed a disciplined training program. So I suppose I kept reasonably fit, or what I thought at the time was reasonably fit, but wasn't really disciplined in my approach to training.
So it's what I'll call DIY fitness.
Yeah, that's probably a fair way to describe it, mate. It was pretty much make it up on the spot, really.
What size clothing were you when you were at this point, when you thought, you know, I'm feeling good about myself?
Well, back then I was probably anything from an extra small up to a small, really. I was like rake thin, you know, there was nothing to me, really. So yeah, back then small, but these days medium, sometimes a large. It depends what I'm wearing. So it's been pretty drastic progress, really.
So we say drastic progress. The first time I met you, obviously, I've mentioned the place quite a lot, was Fairlawns.
Yeah.
You were in the free weights. In fact, no, I did your induction, didn't I?
You did, mate. You were the first person to induct me. You made sure that I wasn't going to have a heart attack when I was using the equipment and all those checks you have to do.
Yeah, that's cool. And what did you think when you first joined the gym? Were you a little bit apprehensive, or what were you feeling like?
Well, the reason I went to Fairlawns, to be honest, mate, is I wanted to get back into weight training, but I didn't really know how I was going to go about doing that. But I didn't want to go to a chain gym. I didn't want to be in a busy environment where I feel like I'm sort of waiting to get on the equipment, and you're sort of waiting for bigger dudes to get off the equipment as well, you know. So I wanted to go somewhere where I thought, you know, I'm going to have sort of carte blanche to do what I want to do. And Fairlawns obviously has quite older clientele, so it sort of fit the bill, really. And I was earning a little bit more money because I changed jobs. So I went with Fairlawns, and I always say the weird twist of fate, really, that you happen to be the person that inducted me, because I think really straight away we got along, didn't we? We were chatting about the footy, and you sort of offered me consultation, PT, and I thought, you know what, I'll give it a go. I'll see how this goes, you know. I got a good vibe off you, and I thought let's really have a crack at this and see where I can take it.
So the first program that we did was the one that I give to all my guys who've never really done anything before. Do you remember what that program was?
Yeah, push pull power, mate.
That's the one. It's the program I give to every single one of the lads or ladies that want to get themselves into some sort of lifting routine.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it gives you a fitness education. It's got all the compound movements in. It's got all of your standard lifting exercises in there, but it's not too complicated. So do you want to explain a little bit more about how you felt on that program?
Yeah, well, it's funny looking back at it now, mate, because obviously what you and I do now is a world away from it. But at the time, I remember thinking, "Fucking hell, this is difficult." Like we were training parts of the body that I didn't even know existed. You know, I've said to you recently, haven't I? I remember the aches and pains I used to get, and it, I just realised there's more to weightlifting than what you see a lot of guys do in the gym. So a bicep curl, I used to think that's the only way that you trained your biceps. Well, actually, there's different parts of your biceps, and there's lots of different ways to train them, and that's the case with all parts of the body. So I remember struggling through it, to be honest, but stuck with it. I was doing about 4 or 5 days a week in the gym, following it rigidly, and after 6 weeks we switched it up, didn't we? But no, it was it's a great starter program, mate, and I shared it with my brother recently because he's just set up a bit of a home gym during quarantine, which I think a lot of us are doing, aren't we? And he found it quite useful as well.
And then we went on to 4-day split, which is essentially what I give to the people that have done push pull power, really enjoyed it, and now really need to learn the extra exercises. So how to section your body up and how to create an actual training program. And that was about 8 weeks long. Were you starting to see the changes in your body then?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I saw it. Probably the area where I grew quickest was chest. I've always kind of built quite quickly up on the chest, and I was noticing that I was sort of getting back to a size that I was probably not quite at, but close to about 4 or 5 years ago when I first started training. So I noticed that really quickly, and I thought, well, this is working because I know that my chest grows quickly. But I was just feeling stronger, and already starting to feel like, you know what, I'm going into a gym now, I'm going into a weights room, and I feel confident. I don't feel like, you know, nervous or apprehensive, which I always used to feel in gyms. I always used to feel really anxious picking up weights, because that's what the environment's like, isn't it? When you're not used to it, it is quite daunting for people.
Especially even as a 16-year-old, when I first joined, I actually joined Fitness First Wednesbury. I remember seeing like the PTs that taught me, you know, that started me off in the industry, like your Adam Parr and Tony Bailey and a guy I called Grandad Round, and he was, honestly, these guys were intimidating to look at. They were big guys. Obviously I understand now with the fitness knowledge I've got that, you know, they were just doing what I'm trying to do now. But because they were, I think Tony was like a 6XL. He was absolutely humongous, and it was so intimidating, even as someone who got their fitness qualification, who understood what was going on. It's still an intimidating place to be, unless, I mean, I understand now, you've got a lot of young guys that are going into, and young girls that are going into gyms, and because they've done so much at college and they've done so much at school and university, they're not as panicky. Whereas I think the change in the last 10 years has been absolutely crazy.
Well, it's part of an everyday life now for people, isn't it? It's more and more common for people to go to gyms, but you know, I still talk to people now that feel apprehensive and don't quite like it, you know, don't really like being in a gym environment. I'm sure there's plenty of people during this quarantine that have really got into a form of training that they've never done before, because they probably feel more comfortable doing it in the living room, you know, and it is quite a daunting place. But going back to the programs you were setting me, from a very sort of early stage, I was starting to feel more confident. But the brilliant things about the programs, and this is the case, you know, to this day, 4 years on, they get tougher every time. And every time you give me a new one, I always think, fucking hell, I can't do that. You know, like, what's he give me that for? And like, in those early stages, probably the first year, I used to think, well, I'm back at square one now, because I've mastered that program, but I can't do this. But actually, I mean, I suppose this depends on your mindset, but I love the challenge of that. I thought, well, do you know what? I'm going to do this for 6 weeks, and then I'm going to go back, and he's going to set me another program. So you constantly feel like you're smashing your objectives. So that really started to love it from a very early stage. To be fair, mate.
And obviously, you say you started to love it. I then threw at you the curveball that we were going to try our first cut phase. Because you had gone up to a medium, but by your own admission, you weren't very happy with the amount of body fat you were carrying.
Yeah, that's true.
So we decided to do the first cut phase, which was 8 weeks. Now, you're a pescatarian, so at the time I got my nutrition qualification to be able to give you the nutrition. How did you find that cut phase? Because it is a phase that puts so many people off training.
I mean, it's tough, mate. I mean, there's no other way to, you can't beat around the bush. It is difficult. And I think it probably, I don't want to say cuts the wheat from the chaff because everybody's different, but I think it is kind of like the difference between, disciplined, full-on training and sort of casual. I'm going to the gym to sort of keep fairly fit, but I'm not really bothered about, really, really pushing myself. I mean, that's the difference for me. And, the thing it made me realise, I've always been okay with my diet. I've always, like I said, I'm pescatarian, so I've always kind of eaten what the right things. I eat plenty of veg, and I eat fruit. I eat everything the doctors tell you to. Basically, don't smoke. But I was struggling in the early stages of the cut. I was like really, really struggling, especially with the cardio element. I was thinking, bloody hell, like I'm going to have to get my diet bang on, which I did, because you give me a good plan to follow. And what I did find, and I remember texting you one morning after a few beers on a Saturday night. I said, "Hey, why are my hangovers twice as worse as they've ever been before?" And they were horrendous, mate. They were wiping me out for most of the day, and I hate losing a day. I'm not the sort to lounge in bed or on the sofa. I hate it. I hate if you're hungover on a Sunday, you get to the end of Sunday and you've done nothing. I hate that. I hate that feeling. I feel like you've wasted the weekend. And what the cut phase made me realise is I'm going to have to cut back on my boozing as well. I still enjoy a drink to this day, but I don't go hell for leather like I used to. I look back now and I think, around about the time I was at uni, probably the first couple of years of full-time working, I was drinking a hell of a lot. But I didn't think it at the time. So I suppose it's not until you start to get on top of your nutrition that you realise maybe some of the bad habits that you had.
It's crazy, really, because I remember that conversation you had, and I did what I normally do, and I laughed at you. And I then said to you that your body's starting to prioritise muscle building and muscle preservation over trying to deal with alcohol. And that's just your body going into a phase where it prefers being fit.
Yeah. Well, it's a good sign, isn't it? It was a sign that we were doing the right things, I guess.
And then from there, we started all over again. But from there, we were PTing quite a bit more, and you knew the basics of exercise. I could have left you there and you could have gone to any gym or facility anywhere in the world and you'd have been able to do an exercise program. But what I saw in you was somebody that wanted to really take this further, and your confidence was absolutely flying at this point, because I hope you don't mind me saying, you were probably the most, I don't know if the word's right, you were the most unconfident person I'd ever had in, to be honest with you. You were, so the first time we did the induction, you were almost walking around looking at your feet. So did you find that your confidence was starting to flow a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And that's been the biggest thing about my fitness journey, really. Whenever I talk to anybody about it, I always say I go into the gym for my mind and my well-being, for a start off, and anything that I achieve physically is a bonus. It's great, and that's why we do the programs. But the reason that I train is to keep healthy in my mind, and self-confidence is something that I've always struggled with, to be honest, from a young age. My mum always tells this funny story. When I was a kid, I wanted some chips, and she said, right, okay, well, there's the money, go into the chip shop. And I wouldn't go in. I was absolutely terrified of, sort of engaging with people that I didn't know. And she drove away. I didn't get my chips, but she taught me good life lessons like that. And I suppose as you get older, it's a natural process of growing up. You get a little bit more confident. I did a bit of bar work, which gets you interacting with the general public. So that did me a lot of good. And then working full time. I mentioned my first line manager briefly earlier. She did me the world of good for my confidence because she really coached and mentored. It's probably the first mentor that I've had outside of my family. I'm very, very close to my family, but she was probably the first person to have a real impact that wasn't related to me. So, still even then, not very confident really. I would always sort of doubt myself and say, well, I can't do this, that's not for me. I'd put things off, I'd talk myself out of trying new experiences. And the training has totally changed that. I was having a conversation with somebody the other night, and I said, I probably, for the first time in my life, for the last year, maybe 2 years, feel really happy with the person I am.
Hey guys, we're back. Bit of technical difficulty, obviously with the quarantine. Wi-Fi is a bit ropey at the moment. So Ben, we finished up at Fairlawns, and obviously I set up MA Fitness. And what was the biggest difference between coming over to MA Fitness and what we used to do at Fairlawns?
Well, I mean, I was always going to sort of come over to MA Fitness because I wanted to carry on training with you. But I think what I found the big difference to be was that extra push it gives you. Our Monday night sessions are that little bit harder than what I do on my own. Obviously, I'm following your programs anyway, so when I'm in the gym, it's always a decent workout. But I guess you kind of train within yourself a little bit. When you're on your own, you don't push yourself that little bit extra. And that's what Monday nights definitely give me. So it's great. I love it, and we have good banter as well, don't we, mate?
I think that's the best bit about the session, really, is because we enjoy it that much. You can put the music on you want, or we can just chill out to something. That's always great. But I find that because I know that you can't hit the weights that I know you can hit. You need a spot with you, obviously, to be able to do that. I think that gives you a much better opportunity at hitting the right weights that you need to hit. Yeah,
100%. I mean, I always train on my own, really. I've never sort of trained with anybody else in the gym. So, yeah, I mean, having a spot there does make a big difference. I enjoy training on my own, but, I wouldn't want to train with somebody every day of the week. But one-to-one on a Monday night works perfectly, and like you say, you can push it that little bit harder and try things that you probably wouldn't feel 100% secure doing on your own.
And the other thing I want to bring up is obviously you're dyspraxic. So for people at home that don't know what dyspraxia is, I'll let you go through what dyspraxia is, Ben.
Well, basically, it's a minor condition. Some people have it worse than I do, but it really affects your balance and your coordination. So really basic things were a real tricky thing for me as a kid. I used to have to go to classes and work on my balance and stuff. And I've never learnt to ride a bike to this day. That's one challenge that I haven't conquered. And stuff like driving was difficult to pick up at first because obviously it's like hand-eye coordination. So that applies to the gym as well. Like when I first started, it was quite difficult to sort of get into that routine. But it's not really something that affects me now. I've overcome it, but it's been a challenge.
Yeah, I can imagine, because obviously when you first started out doing push, pull, power and 4-day split, you're learning probably 150 to 180 new exercises, which involve some of the exercises are multifaceted, as in they move two different directions or two different muscles at once.
Yeah.
Did you ever struggle with that sort of stuff?
Yeah, well, I think there's been a few times when you've had to explain things to me, a couple of times over, because my legs and my arms are flying all over the place. But fortunately, I've always sort of been able to master it after a few attempts. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely a challenge to begin with. I still get a little bit confused by things from time to time.
I think so.
I think I'll always be like that. To be fair.
So to sum it all up, what do you think that it's done for you since you started your journey back? Just doing some DIY to the point now where, let's be honest about things, you could probably walk through a PT qualification. How do you sum it all up?
Well, I'm not just saying this as a boost to you, mate. It has transformed my life. I would say it is such a huge part of who I am as a person, my makeup, and how I operate and how I carry myself in life. I'm more confident in the workplace. I'm more confident, just more comfortable in my own skin, and just love the challenge of it, and setting goals and achieving them, and also most importantly, I think I've gained a really good friend in yourself. We talk outside of the training. We keep in touch. So it's been without doubt one of the best decisions I've made.
And if you cast your mind back to the start of the induction and the start of the program, what would have happened if, let's say, for example, you'd have tried to carry on without the help of the trainer? Do you think you'd have ever hit the point you have now, or?
No, not at all. I wouldn't have got to the point that I'm at now. I've exceeded all my expectations, really, in terms of the physical transformation, and no, I don't think I would have done it without your. It's a combination of your guidance and sort of the determination to do it, and that appetite to keep smashing goals. But you need somebody to set those goals, don't you? And that's what you do for me.
I think you've hit the nail on the head, really, because people talk to me all the time and they go, well, how do you get people to do it? And sometimes I go, well, I can't. I mean, obviously I'm not going to put a story on my YouTube channel of somebody who didn't do very well, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But you, more than others, really got locked into what you wanted to do. I mean, I knew I would walk in 7 o'clock on an evening and you were going to be there.
Yeah, there was a few.
I think you've almost fell in love with fitness. Fitness has become behind football and, obviously your family. I think it's up there with the most important things in your life.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Like I said, it is a huge part of who I am as a person, and it's not something that I could ever imagine letting slip. I'd like to think I'll still be training as hard when I'm, old and wrinkly.
It's the same with me. I can't ever see me not training. I mean, I've got a couple of stories coming up in the next couple of weeks of people who potentially did let it slip a little bit, who were fit and let it slip and really had to work hard.
It's easy to
but
do.
I could never see me not going into a gym and exercising, because I absolutely love it.
I think when you start to feel those mental benefits as well as the physical benefits, and you start to feel that transformation in yourself as a person, then it's what I imagine a drug to be like. It's a hard habit to kick. So
I'm glad you described it as that, because I've always said the gym is my addiction.
Yeah.
I'm quite an addictive personality type anyway, so that's why I try and avoid practically everything bad.
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? It's a healthy addiction to have. Most addictions aren't healthy, and who knows? The gym could substitute an addiction that you might have had that is not a good one to have. So it's definitely, I think once you get that buzz for it, it's a hard habit to kick.
And the final question I've got for you, which I asked to everybody, would you have done anything differently I think we've been training for about 5 years now. Would you have done anything different?
No, mate, nothing. The only thing I would have done is done it sooner, if I could have done. But like I said, I think when mine and your paths crossed, it was kind of a funny twist of fate, you know. So
it was a bit fatey, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, what are the chances of the person that inducts me, does a generic sort of gym induction, turning out to be, my PT for close to 5 years now? It doesn't always happen, does it? You walk into most gyms, people say hello, sign you up, and they forget about you. But you happen to be working that day, and you happen to be looking for clients, and the rest is history, and the rest is everything we just talked about.
Yeah. I mean, the only issue I've got is that you are a Wolves fan. I mean, if that weren't the case, I think we'd have gone on. To be honest with you, I'm a little bit worried with how good Wolves are playing at this moment in time. To be honest with you, being a Baggies fan, but
we ain't going anywhere, mate. People keep predicting that it's all going to fall apart, but we're there to stay now, mate. Big time now.
Fitness. I'm hoping it falls apart. But let's not go into that.
So I'd just like no need to be like that, mate.
So I just want to say a massive thank you to you for coming onto the channel.
Mate,
I really appreciate you giving me your time to film the video.
Absolute pleasure, mate.
If you could all comment down below with how well Ben's done, that'd be absolutely great. I'm going to share this on my LinkedIn, and I'm assuming you're probably going to share this as well, Ben.
Yeah. I will
Fantastic,
do, mate. Absolute pleasure. Anything I can do to help and support what you're doing, mate, you know I will.
I really appreciate you, mate. So please don't forget to like the video. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Please like the video, and if you could share it around for me to your contacts or to your friends, that'd be absolutely great, because although some people may not want to listen to these sort of longer style podcasty type things, the workout videos might be good for you and all that different stuff. So please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and I will speak to you all next time. Cheers, guys.